Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today I got a knife review, and it's a super cool one. I've actually had it for a little bit now, and I didn't really like it at first, but it grew on me. And that knife, oops, operator error. That knife is the Kizer Sheepdog Mini, or the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. You might find it listed either way. But yeah, Kizer Mini Sheepdog. Um, Super cool knife. So basically, this knife is based off of the original Kizer Sheepdog knife. It was a full size knife. Is part of their upper line that had titanium handles and ball bearing flipper and S35 VN blade. This is a downsized version that is cheaper and has different materials. So we'll get into those real quick. But overall specs on this knife are the length is 5.75 inches. The blade length is 2.63 inches. The blade width is from cutting edge to spine is 1.25 inches. The blade thickness is 0.11. The handle length is 3.14 inches long. The thickness is 0.45 inches thick. The overall weight is just over 3 ounces at 3.17. And yeah, so I'm going to actually pull up the original Sheepdog knife just to compare some of the other materials. But the original Sheepdog had a 3-inch blade, S35 VN blade steel. It weighed 6 ounces. Wow. And had titanium handles. And it was 7 inches, 7 3/4 inches long overall. So, yeah, that's kind of some of the comparisons. Now, that being said, this knife does run on washers, but it is pretty smooth. And we'll get to some of the other stuff eventually. But basically, the blade is a kind of modified cleaver blade slash sheep's foot. Looks super cool, but this is kind of the knife that started. Well, not this one, but the Sheepdog is one of the knives that kind of was at the forefront of the cleaver style movement that came up about within the last year. But basically, it's a flat ground blade, has a little bit of a swedge across the spine up there. It has this unique kind of clip out of the elbow of the knife up there. And yeah, there's not much belly to it at all. There's just a slight curve to it. It is flat ground, plain edge. It does have a nice sharpening choil up front there, as well as a swedge at the very front as well. So got some really cool lines, and when you're using it and seeing it, the light refracts or reflects off in a bunch of different ways, and I think that's part of the look of this knife that makes it so cool. And I'll admit, when I got it in hand and I finally got it out of the box, just seeing the blade itself just is like super cool. And it's a nice satin finish. It is a designated flipper. There's no thumb studs. The flipper is pretty chunky and robust in a way. I felt like it didn't necessarily have to be this long from top to bottom here. It could have been like maybe half the length and still would have done it, but it kind of goes along with the overall theme of the stockier looking blade. Uh, on it, you'll have the Kizer symbol. You'll also have, it's kind of dirty there, the 154 cm. So it's a pretty good steel, better than VG10. And then you'll have the maker's mark right there or Sheepdog Mini, the little symbol for it. So yeah, super cool. Um, yeah, other than that, there's no jimping on top, and the blade functions really well. Very slicey, very smooth to deploy. I don't think it's on ball bearings. Um, it could be though. I'll have to check. All right, so it does run on a ball bearing pivot system, and that is why it's so smooth to deploy. And it is slightly drop shutty. Oops. Once you get it past the detent, there we go. Just shuts. So, yeah. Blade wise, really awesome. Now going into the handle, you can see the stylized little pivot there. It says we've got a satin pivot pin with a blue pivot collar around it. Just adds a pop of color. It looks pretty slick. And the fact that it's satin blends everything together. We have some nice black G10 handle scales with a kind of finer fabric kind of texture to it. Then it has these three troughs cut into the handle on matching or mirroring sides, so it's the same on the other side. And that just adds some additional texture. On the reverse side, the pivot collar is also matched or mirrored over here, so you still got it on the other side as well. And then we get to the pocket clip. Pretty simple, no branding on it, so it's nice and clean. Yeah, it is an open back flow through construction. The liners are satin finished as well. That just kind of bleeds the look of the blade throughout the interior of the handle. We do have some nice barrel spacers. And then on the inside, they didn't do that great a job of kind of skeletonizing it, but there are some drilled out spots just to lighten the load slightly. It is a liner lock, and this might be one of two kind of little gripes I have about it. Basically, the liner lock sits pretty much flush with the overall profile of the handle. So you really can barely see it. It barely sticks out. There's a little bit of a chamfered edge here and around the edge of that one scale. But for the most part, you really don't have much access to get into that liner lock. So you pretty much have to put it spine side down, press in, and then over to undo it. And because this flipper is so chunky, it almost hits your finger before you can get it off the detent. So like I said, if this flipper was half as wide as it is, I would be able to fold the blade enough without having the flipper tab hit my finger before it gets out of the detent. But a lot of times I end up hitting my thumb before it gets past the detent, and then I have to like readjust or push the blade and squish my thumb. So not necessarily the easiest frame lock or liner lock to disengage that I've used. Once you get used to it, it does work. But just know if you have fatter thumbs or something, that might be a problem. So other than the liner lock, the only other ding on this, and it really isn't that much of a ding, is the fact that it's a 3-finger grip. There's just not enough real estate on the handle for me to get my pinky on there. And yeah, so it's kind of awkward because of that. And once again, if this flipper tab was half the size, I'd be able to move up just ever so slightly to get that last little bit of my pinky on there. But once again, there's a purpose to it. It just looks good. It's just part of the style of the blade. And this is the Sheepdog Mini. So mini means smaller handle, and yeah, so I got a 3-finger grip. But that being said, you know, this isn't for any like super hard use or chopping, so I really don't need a 4-finger grip. Besides pinching up here is pretty much how I use it all the time for cutting or whatever. But it would be a good little food prep knife, EDC, urban EDC, and package opening. And I just like the simplicity of the pocket clip and stuff. Very clean looking. Also, if you are interested, like I said, the original version is 3-inch blade. They do have a Kizer Sheepdog XL, which is substantially larger, and that's about $100. But I know Blade HQ has been running deals on this throughout the Christmas season, so keep an eye out for these on sale again any day, any holiday season. But I think they go anywhere from $60 to $80. And with the 154 cm, that's pretty good. So now some quick comparisons. I have the Kizer Damen. I have what else? The Mini Grip and Spyderco Cat. And if I had a Pilar around, I'd probably compare it to that. But there you go. Lengthwise, 2.5 inches or 2 3/4 inches. Handle lengthwise, you can see it has one of the smallest handles. And yeah. So we'll compare it to the Mini Grip. Blade stock about the same. Handle width about the same. The Mini Grip is lighter. Kizer Damen. Same size blade stock. Handle width about the same. Cutting edge, the Damen's slightly longer. And in handle as well. And then blade stock, I think the Spyderco about the same. Handle wise though, I think the Spyderco is slightly thinner. And yeah, you can see the comparison. Alright, so now we're on to our last test, and that is the ugly brown glove test. Not sure how the liner lock is going to hold up on this. Grip wise, here, I was able to close it. That's surprising. Grip wise, pretty good. Those grooves right there really help my thumb to lock in if it does slip. So I'm trying to pull pretty good. Flipper, there's no jimping on it, so it can be slick, but it's at a pretty good angle. It's not down too far, so I shouldn't slip off. And with the ball bearings, it makes it very smooth flipper. And I'm actually surprised at how well the liner lock is allowing me to disengage the knife. It is a little small, so it's a little hard to hold on with the gloves, because when there's no jimping or texture along the spine or the profile edge of the knives, it usually makes it kind of slick for when I'm closing them. So, yeah, wow. Did a little bit better than I thought. Does it pass? Heck yes. Would I give it? I'll give it a B+. So there you have it, guys. B+ for this guy. Once again, who is it for? Well, if you're a fan of the Sheepdog, you're going to be a fan of this one. If you're a fan of Cleaver blades, you're going to want to pick this up. And if you just want to test out a Kizer for under $100, I'd also recommend this one as well. Other than that, great for EDC, urban EDC, and yeah, just kind of a neat, good-looking knife. Potentially even a gentleman's carry. We'll see. Alright guys, so thank you very much. That is the Kizer Mini Sheepdog. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the other videos. Check out the eye or whatever down here. Click on it, you'll subscribe. And then hit that eye in the upper right-hand corner if it's available. And thank you guys. I'll see you outside.